Well, Ottawa will be rolling out its Air Passenger Bill of Rights. That's starting tomorrow. The new legislation is designed to compensate passengers who experience inadequate service from airlines. For more on this, I'm now joined by Gabor Lukacs. He's the founder and coordinator of Air Passenger Rights. Gabor, thanks a lot for your time today.
Good afternoon, Angie.
Yeah, we know that you've been advocating for this for a very, very long time. Now that some of these changes are going to be taking effect tomorrow, what are your thoughts, not only on what some of these changes are going to be, but also how they're going to be affecting passengers?
The government is duping the public. I've not been advocating for this. I've been advocating for real passenger protection. The new rules are going to harm Canadians in a number of ways, and it will be a very rude and unpleasant awakening for the public when they understand what the government has done.
So explain that to me more then, Gabor. Why is this going to be a rude awakening for passengers when the government is putting this forward? And this was put forward in May, saying this was going to start mid-July. And that, of course, being tomorrow, saying that passengers would get some sort of compensation. They would be informed with regards to cancellations and schedule changes and whatnot. So talk to me about what you mean by this being some sort of a ruse.
I can really struggle to see how keeping, for example, passengers confined to an aircraft for 3 hours and 45 minutes instead of 90 minutes is any improvement. The government is actually telling misinformation to the public. The new rules actually take away rights that passengers have while re-give to them existing rights. For example, with respect to baggage, those rights have been around since 2003. They have been on the law books. The government is now pretending that they are giving something new. When it comes to denial of boarding, the government is touting some bombastic figures, which look good on the paper, but the eligibility conditions for the compensation are so narrow, way narrower than they have been before, that in the vast majority of the cases, passengers will not see a dime.
What then needs to be done? What do you want to then see where you feel that passengers are being properly taken care of, passengers properly being respected and compensated when it comes to air travel?
Canada should follow the European Union's gold standard of passenger protection. In Europe, they have a working, functional protection system, the best in the world, actually, which balances the rights of passengers and airlines.
What do you make of this? Now, the airlines are asking the Federal Court of Appeal to quash the new rules that would boost compensation for passengers, because now you're getting some pushback from the airlines on this as well.
This is a publicity stunt. When you look at their court filings, they actually have media contact information right in the court filing. They are trying to create the impression that they are unhappy about it, and moreover, to foreclose the possibility of real air passenger protection in the future, sometime down the line. That is the real purpose of why they are doing it. Some of their filings are completely bogus. They are not even the right court. They're not even the right procedure. They are doing it just to create this false appearance. The reality is that airlines and the government have been talking in secret in 2017 and earlier. There is actually an affidavit sworn by someone from the IATA, the International Air Transport Association, confirming that these discussions have been happening in the past before the public ever had a say on these matters. So these are rules written by the airlines for the airlines.
Is there something in the legislation that you do see that you say, okay, we are making some headway, there are some improvements?
When you look at musical instruments, that is a new feature that will solve a big problem for a small number of people. With the rest of the issues, the most important thing which is missing from these new rules is real improvement in enforcement. The fines that have been listed in the new rules have existed to a great extent before, just they haven't been applied. And when fines were issued, the fines haven't been collected by the government. So what we really need is true and real enforcement and rules that actually protect passengers and are enforceable. So these are not what we see now.
Okay, so let's look at this case here before I have to let you go, Gabor. The case with regards to Swoop Airlines, canceled flights, passengers were stranded for several hours. This happening earlier this month. The new Passenger Bill of Rights, should mean better compensation for these travelers. You're not in agreement with
No.
this because you're saying this is not going to help them. So when we look at some numbers and they talk about, for example, if there's a delay between 6 to 9 hours, $700 compensation. Smaller airlines were looking at $250. Others, passengers could be compensated, I know $1,000, sort of depending. You're saying that these kind of numbers don't really mean anything. And when it comes down to a situation like what happened with Swoop Airlines, passengers are still going to be stuck.
That's exactly the problem. Those numbers sound great and they are great for news headlines. But what you need to ask yourself is, what are the eligibility criteria for those numbers? In the case of Swoop, Swoop will be able to say, sorry, this is a maintenance issue, therefore we are not paying.
Okay. So what's next then for your group? Where are you going to be taking things?
We are currently challenging ourselves in the Federal Court of Appeal some of the worst portions of these new rules. We filed those challenges several weeks ago. So in addition to that, we would like to see this become an election issue. We encourage all Canadians to ask their members of parliament, their candidates, the same question. How are they going to fix what the current government botched? We would like to hear it from every candidate.
We will continue to follow this closely. Gabor Lukacs, thank you so much for your time today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.